What's going on, Fantasy Alarm family? My name is Justin Fensterman, along with Matt Selz and Ryan Hallam, and it's time for another family meetup. We call it the Family Times Podcast here on FantasyAlarm.com. Guys, what's going on? Ryan, since our last meetup, you got Christian McCaffrey. How tight are your pants right now?
They'd be a little tighter if they didn't just get smoked by the Chiefs right after. I knew he wasn't going to play. I knew the Chiefs are a better team, but whew. Man, that second half was ugly, and now the Rams this week. So Christian McCaffrey may have come. It might be. I don't want to say too late because all you got to do is pretty much make the playoffs and figure it out from there. But it's a tough 2-week stretch. So hopefully he's studied the playbook well, and we can go out and get the arguably the best running back in baseball, football, and hopefully he stays healthy. We talked a lot about his health in August on this show.
I mean, Matt Selz, you write the NFL Weekly previews along with Britt Flynn on the website. So going into this time around here, after not seeing him on third downs, limited as expected last week, what are your expectations for McCaffrey this weekend?
Not as high as I would have hoped, having him on a couple of fantasy teams this year. Look, the running back position in San Francisco is a mess, right? They still have Jeff Wilson. They have McCaffrey. Apologize for my dog drinking water right next to my computer, apparently. And, that offense is nuts. It's always hard to predict. And when Debo is healthy, he still runs a handful of times a game, too. So it's not look, as bad as Carolina had been, his value was a lot higher in Carolina than it will be in San Francisco. That's for sure.
I don't agree. They don't trade for – that situation is a situation because of personnel. Like when Elijah Mitchell is healthy, he's a 20-carry-a-game guy. Okay, Debo threw in a few. They didn't trade 5 draft picks to not use him. I think Debo's running days are almost over now. I think Shanahan's backfield is
carry down back, though. He's been a guy who's carried it 10 to 15 times and then caught it 7 times. He's an Austin Eckler.
Yeah, well, I think he's more of a runner than Austin Eckler, but I understand your point. But, I mean, what team schemes runs and screen passes and things better than San Francisco? And their offense is going to be a hell of a lot better than Carolina's, so more scoring opportunities. I don't think they're going to not use him as much. I mean, when you have that kind of talent, you're not going to hold it back. I don't care what they normally do with Jeff Wilson and Tevin Coleman. And I mean, this is Christian McCaffrey. You got to believe they traded 4 or 5 draft picks. They're going to use them.
You would assume, but we've seen weirder things happen.
I would be utterly shocked. Oh, you're right. We'll see. I guess we'll see Sunday. But I've seen that narrative out there, and I just don't understand it. I mean, it's like
from the last 4 or 5 years under Shanahan's tutelage, where they just seemingly swap out running backs
because of injury. Not again.
But we were talking about McCaffrey's injury history in August. It hasn't disappeared now that he's gone to a team that's gone through 7 running backs in 4 years.
No, but if he's healthy, I can't imagine that they're going to. Let's have Jeff Wilson carry the ball when we have Christian McCaffrey on the team. I mean, that just doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't. It doesn't.
I agree. But we've seen weirder things happen, like Nathaniel Hackett forget how to coach, right? Like,
am I a weirdo that I'm worried about the 40? Yes, I am a weirdo. You're right. But besides that, am I also a weirdo because I'm worried about the 49ers pass catchers with McCaffrey there too? Because we just, again, like you guys are saying, Austin Eckler and everything. I mean, this guy could be taking targets away from some of those receiving weapons, including guys like Brandon Ayuk, who we've been able to rely on a bit. Debo Samuel here. We've already talked about you saying, Ryan, that his running days are over at this point. Even a guy like George Kittle, where we're desperate to find some tight end not named Travis Kelce that we can trust week in and week out. Mark Andrews, 2 weeks last week. Just crazy.
I mean, I think it comes into play somewhat. They don't tend to throw. They're not one of the higher volume throwing offenses. So, if Jimmy's going to throw it 25 times, sure, that's going to cut into somebody. And they have obviously 3 very well established weapons in Kittle, Ayuk, and Debo. So, Yeah, I mean, well, we'll see with Debo's hamstring injury if that causes him to miss any time. I don't think it will, but I know he didn't practice yesterday, but I mean, he's a veteran. How much practice does he really need? But yeah, I think it has a chance to cut into someone, and maybe they'll throw more. I don't think Shanahan is unwilling to change his system or change the run pass distribution that he does if he finds something that works. But I mean, it's hard to say. He was on the team for 3 days on Sunday or 4 days on Sunday. So I guess a lot of questions will be answered, I think, this week in LA.
Yeah, it's going to be a little tough to know right off the bat, because while your premise does have merit to be concerned, the other problem looking at it from a McCaffrey history standpoint is he's never been on a team with this many receiving threats, right?
True.
Like, he's gotten a lot of targets in Carolina because the only receiving threat was DJ Moore, right? Curtis Samuel was there, but wasn't really a receiving threat really ever. Robbie Anderson, when he wasn't throwing tantrums, wasn't really a receiving threat. They haven't had a good tight end in Carolina since the heyday of a guy who's now in the booth, Greg Olsen, right? Like, they haven't had the weapons that San Francisco does. Now, the problem with this is you get a guy who's used to getting targets and, you know, getting a decent amount of work in the backfield, going to a team that runs a lot and doesn't necessarily pass a lot, but has a lot of guys to pass to. So it is an interesting question, and we're just going to have to wait to find out. I would not be jumping ship on any of your Niners receivers.
Right.
I don't think this warrants it. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting puzzle that's going to have to be. And maybe it's a week-to-week matchup thing. Maybe they turn into the Patriots where you can't trust anybody week to week except for Debo, right? Because week-to-week matchups is how Shanahan's probably going to scheme this out the rest of the way.
Let's talk about another, because Ryan's 49ers, he wasn't the only one to get a new running back. Selz actually are Jets fans. It's weird. Selz, the amount we hang out, I always feel like I'm with a Jets fan now. It's you, me, and Bender pretty much when it comes to the Jets fandom, and I'm always hanging with you guys. So it's good to be in good company here. Not as much, though, when you got Breece Hall tearing his ACL out for the year. So what do the Jets do now? They trade for James Robinson. And look, they got someone. They obviously don't believe in Michael Carter unless they really just want that two-headed monster, kind of like what we saw, the multi-back system in San Francisco where Robert Saleh was. But Selz, what was your reaction? You know what? I'm going to give my reaction first, Selz. I'm taking the stage here. James Robinson, I liked it. I wasn't like, oh, amazing get right there. I liked it. I mean, take it for what it was about what happened in Jacksonville. James Robinson had a few good runs early in the year. That really helped the production. That really helped the total. But wasn't really running effectively in Jacksonville. That's why he lost carries to Travis Etienne. Travis Etienne is having games where he's running 5.8 yards per carry, and he's busting out good runs. That's why. It's no unfairness like he's trying to make it out to be in the media. Travis Etienne, it was a seesaw. We saw the production seesaw. Etienne had more success. Now you put him in a role, which I think is actually good, where he doesn't need to have 18 to 20 carries. Give this guy 10 to 12. I mean, he did come off that Achilles injury pretty quickly here. Try to preserve him a bit. So I like it, but I don't love it. I don't see, wow, amazing. Jets are going to continue to win game after game after game, but nice stopgap right there until they see what it's about in the run game. Charles, what was your reaction?
About the same thing. Look, he got traded because he was averaging 2.5 yards per carry.
Yeah.
Right? You can't have that in your backfield. It doesn't help anything, right? And Etienne was the guy. Look, they spent the first round pick on Etienne. He was clearly going to be the guy when he was healthy. And say what you will about Doug Peterson, he likes lead backs. So that was Etienne. They only gave up a 6th rounder for him, so that's not terrible if it doesn't work out, right? Yeah. Does it hurt, depth in some deep drafts? Sure. Okay. But it's a 6th rounder, so who cares? But I think it does mean that they're going to have to take the cover off of Zach Wilson. They're going to have to let the guy throw, because you cannot you can't lose a guy who before he got injured had busted out, 4 carries for 70-something yards against the Broncos defense, and then replace him with a guy who's averaging 2.5 yards on the season behind what is graded as a better offensive line than what the Jets are trotting out there right now. So, yeah, if you've been waiting for Garrett Wilson and Elijah Moore and God help us, Corey Davis to do something, this might be the time, because I don't think they can keep Zach Wilson, disguised as well at this point.
I think it might be the opposite. I think they might have gotten Robinson for depth to keep running the ball. Now they have Michael Carter and James Robinson, and they can each get 15 carries, and we can still run it 35 times and still not let Zach Wilson throw to a wide receiver. But we will see what the case will be. I think if they went out and just took some old man off the scrap heap, that might tend to make me think that they might throw more. And all you're saying about Robinson is accurate. He's not having a very good season, but I still think he's a pretty well-respected running back with a good deal of talent. That I think that they're going to ride both of them, and I still think Wilson's going to throw it 17 times a game. But I'm guessing that's happening because they're not liking what they're seeing from him during the week, or else you'd think they would let him throw more. But I don't know.
Yeah, by the way, the other thing that we have to kind of think about, I mean, we do have a couple of backs on bye with the Chiefs and Chargers on bye, but I mean, James Robinson, I have 3 shares of the guy. I don't know if I could start him this week. Is he going to get the McCaffrey treatment? I don't know. Is he, because from everything that we're reading, the Jets want to ease him in. Not ideal if you have him and you need a win in fantasy. He has no ceiling this week. He has no ceiling.
They're also in a tough matchup, right? They're playing the Patriots.
Right.
Which their defense is pretty good. I mean, they just allowed 30-something points to the Bears, but
Yes. The Bears were running all over them.
The Jets.
Well,
right?
And also
they loves nothing more than shoving the ball down the throat of the Jets. So
plus New England kept turning it over. It wasn't like the defense was being put in good situations either.
Give a team a short field enough, they're going to put up some points.
Yeah, even Justin Fields, who, by the way, I have to say, and I did tweet at the time because I bashed the guy constantly, he looked really good for once.
I mean, look, he can run. That's something that we do know. I mean, look, it's funny because for all of us in fantasy, and I was talking with Adam Ronis about this yesterday because I noticed that Adam Ronis' weekly fantasy football rankings on the website, which you can check out now, constantly being updated. I was shocked at first with how high he had Justin Fields. He had him pretty up there then, and I asked him, I'm just like, dude, you think a little much here for a team that's going up? And the best part about it is going up against his Cowboys, who I think this team is legit on both sides of the ball. And the thing with Justin Fields, though, he was saying, though, he's got a little bit more of a floor if he's going to be running like this and running effectively. So I found it very interesting that he moved them up pretty good amount, considering that the Bears' next opponent, the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, I know he's run for 80+ yards the past couple of weeks, but I'm not ready to stake any claim on Justin Fields just yet. I need to see a lot more.
I mean, generally speaking, yes, but the Cowboys have allowed a decent amount of rushing yards to quarterbacks so far this year. So, there is that. Plus, I feel like their corners are either going to pick it off or get beat. Right? Like, everybody wants to talk about how Diggs had 11 interceptions last year. Okay, but he also gave up 1,100 yards receiving. So he was either picking it off or getting beat, and that hasn't changed this year either. So I'm not quite as high on Justin Fields, but I get the running aspect of the upside.
So to kind of go full circle with James Robinson for a second, at this point, can we expect 8 to 10 carries this week? I mean, we're still waiting on reports here, but let's just say that he's going to play, because at this time, we need all the help we can get in a really low-scoring season. But we can't tell if he's going to get a few carries inside the 5 or not. It's just hard, and like you said, tough matchup.
I mean, if you're in a tough spot because of who's on bye, I'd have to see the waiver before I tell you to go pick up James Robinson, to be perfectly honest. Because it's going to be a split the split backfield, right? As good as Breece Hall was, he was still kind of splitting work with Michael Carter. So yeah, I'm gonna have to see who else is available before I can tell you to go start James Robinson.
Selz, how do you feel with your previews and everything? I'm seeing that the Vikings-Cardinals game is a total of 49. How are you feeling that this game's going to play out here? Are we going to be seeing Kirk Cousins give us a whole "you like that"? It's one of the top scoring fantasy quarterbacks this week.
By the way, that quote is 7 years old now.
Can't believe. How old is Clown Question, bro? That's probably around the same lane, right?
Yeah, like from what, Bryce?
Bryce, yeah. That's right.
When he was asked
the hero, Bryce Harper. This guy was a heel for the last number of years. Man, major face turn. Everyone's just like, oh my God, Bryce Harper's the greatest thing in the world. Let's have quick change on this guy.
Question is 10 years old, by the way. It looks like June of 2012.
Which makes sense because he was not yet 21 at that point. It was regarding going to Canada and drinking, if I'm not mistaken, because
that's right. Yep.
Legal in Canada, but not yet legal in the U.S. because it was before he was 21. I don't really want to talk about Bryce Harper right now.
I was just about to ask: are you rooting for him or are you rooting against him?
I literally don't know if I'm going to watch the World Series, to be perfectly honest, because I don't like either team. I guess if I had to pick one, I'd probably go for the Phillies, I guess, because they just seem like a more likable group of guys. I mean, there's a couple former Nats on there, obviously, with Bryce and Schwarber's there now. And if I'm not mistaken, Brad Hand is a Phillies reliever, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, I'd probably go for them, but it's not a very appealing World Series to me. But prior to that, what the hell was the question?
The question was about the Vikings offense.
Oh, right. Yes.
Similar topics.
I think we could see a shootout. I really do. I don't think the Cardinals' defense has been all that impressive this year. And look, the Vikings, for whatever you're going to call them, they are winning. Like they've won a bunch this year. So they have the weapons to make this a shootout. There's clearly a reason why they think it's going to be a 49-point total. I think it goes over. I really do. I think this is going to be a track meet between two teams with some pretty impressive wide receivers. And, I think it's going over. This might be a sneaky candidate for highest scoring game of the week.
It better. It's one of the highest totals on the board. Another one, by the way, Ryan, that's very high. Raiders Saints, I saw at 49.5 here, and the news came up. It's funny because I had picked up Jameis Winston in 2 leagues, and then the news came out that it's going to be Dalton instead. So a quick drop, and then another quarterback to be picked up there. What do you think about this, Ryan? What do you think about Andy Dalton for us that are very desperate or don't want to ride the Russell Wilson, let it ride type of deal and want to go after somebody else that maybe has a bigger ceiling? What do you think about trotting out there Andy Dalton if you need a streaming option?
I mean, it's not a terrible option. Like you said, the game looks to be high scoring. It's just like the most boring offense, I think, in football. And I never know at the end how they still always seem to end up with like 24 to 28 points.
I'm right there with you. I have no idea. If you look at who misses the games for them, you're like, there's no way they're putting up more than 3 points. And then sure enough, they're in a shootout that's like 31-37.
Yeah, I don't understand it. I mean, and I don't know that who's coming back this week, but as long as they have Chris Olave, I think and Alvin Kamara, that's really all they need. But yes, for some reason, I don't think Dalton is a terrible streaming option. But I can't explain it in like ways that make sense.
He's going to be throwing touchdowns here, and this Raiders secondary is not good. Like, it's not. I'll take that over a Russell Wilson who's now doing his workouts on a plane flight.
I would. I was one of his teammates. I would literally stick my foot out and trip him and hope just so that I don't have to deal with him for another couple weeks. Because, like, God, how unlikable is this guy?
Hey, I saw a tweet the other day. Maybe it was this morning. I don't even remember. But it's like, why? He doesn't do anything. I know because he's boring and corny. But like, there's most people that
he tries too hard to put out this persona.
I know,
right?
And he fails. It's
There's
funny.
Plenty of let's go with Eli Manning, right? Eli Manning was corny and he was a nice guy, but he was just Eli. He'd just show up, answer your questions, go away, right? Russell's like, let's ride, let's do this, and then he doesn't even give his freaking teammates his own phone number. Like, he's so he wants to be elite, like in the elite of society, hanging out with Sierra and be a VIP and like poop in 12 different bathrooms, but like he's so unreachable by everybody else that he comes off as completely unlikable. It's just because he tries too hard.
Listen, priorities, man. He's practicing his little high fives when he comes out of the tunnel. He's on the plane flight stretching for hours on end. KJ Hamler is there verifying it. It's a clown show. That's what it is with him this year. It's a total clown show.
And when he first came out of college and he was the starter for the Seahawks and before he met Sierra and whatever, totally likable guy. Totally, didn't seem it was all cliches. Everybody says cliches. But, you would hear him and then he would go away, right? Then he figured out how to use social media, and now he's completely unlikable because it's all an act. He's all trying way too hard. And you know what else makes it way worse? Is if the Broncos were, undefeated or had a winning record or he was putting up decent things, you could get away with it. But because all of your social media stuff takes off, including Subway, who had to take his sandwich off the menu, apparently.
Why?
All of that stuff takes off, and then you go out and suck. Nobody cares. You just become an asshat who's in it for endorsement money and not actual, improving the team. Same thing with Aaron Rodgers complaining he doesn't have any freaking weapons and he's making $50 million a year. Well, if you took half that, you'd have some freaking weapons, asshole. Shut up.
Wow. There you go right there. And another thing. It doesn't help that the stupid Broncos team is on prime time every single or not every week, every other week.
This is are we counting London as prime time?
I do count London because this is a fun narrative. I count London as prime time.
Well, that's the only game on at the time.
It's game, right? It's the only
worldwide prime time. So everybody else, it's perfect timing, and for us, it's set your lineups. By the way, everybody.
This is what the 6th primetime game for the Broncos in 8 weeks.
I think
it's
between annoying.
Thursday, Sunday, Monday, and now London. I think this is the 6th primetime game in the first 8 weeks of the season.
Yes, it's all annoying. The Broncos, they're just very annoying. It's interesting because what are the biggest storylines when it comes to the NFL this year? You're seeing Russell Wilson and his antics, Tom Brady and his antics.
Oh, he's always had those antics, though.
What's that?
He's been throwing tablets since they were invented.
Right.
That's not a new thing for him.
I think it's just the comp with Brady. It's just why isn't he throwing multiple touchdowns? And it's everything going on. He's doing
Mike Evans is dropping wide open passes.
Yes, that's true. You realize that this guy you can't. It's funny with the Thursday night football game quarterbacks, and especially Lamar Jackson, who after week 3 we were talking about him and Jalen Hurts, and along with Josh Allen as the top 3 guys. Lamar Jackson has plummeted over these last few weeks, dude. Talk about a guy, if he's not going to be running in scores, he's got to be throwing them. Okay, Bateman was out. Well, why does this team not have enough receivers then? And I'm tired of people asking about Devin freaking Duvernay, okay? I'm tired of it. Every week, whether it's on Sirius XM, Discord, Devin Duvernay. And I get it, in a way, I get it. Someone else has to get targets besides Mark Andrews, right? Rashad Bateman out. I'm sick of this guy. The quarterback can't reach him anymore in the end zone. He can barely reach anybody in the end zone. He's sucked.
I will go by what I said a year ago, which is Lamar Jackson is Mike Vick 2.0. He cannot consistently throw a football. The reason why Mike Vick got away with passing the way he did is because he could light you up on the ground. But if you could contain him, you had every shot in the world to beat him because he couldn't throw a football. It's Lamar Jackson. That's what he is, Michael Vick 2.0. If you can contain him, he cannot beat you with his arm. He just can't. I don't care if they add 4 other, like, you could swap Patty Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, and the Chiefs wide receivers would still suck because Lamar Jackson can't throw a football.
Anything to add on that, Ryan?
I feel bad. I'm the only one who's like not fired up and ranting about something, but that's
no,
okay.
It's okay. Here, Ryan, I'll give you.
This is opposite, man.
Here, Ryan, I'll give you something to rant about, Ryan, because you're doing right now as we go to the family table here on Family Times. You're doing a little bracket regarding candy, right?
Sure. Yep.
So I'm going to say something that's going to fire you up, Ryan.
It better not be something bad about peanut butter cups. Or
no, it's not, because look, we all know Reese's Peanut Butter Cup is the #1 seeded candy, bar none. But you know what? You know what? Wait, hang on a second. Yeah, not even close. I agree with that. But you know what else that I think gets a lot of heat that I think is an excellent candy? Butterfinger. I think Butterfinger is great. It's excellent. No, Butterfinger does not suck. It doesn't. You want to talk about people like, oh, it sticks to your teeth. It's not a Now and Later. It's not a Milky Way or any of those caramel candies.
Your teeth.
What's that?
The inside does stick to your
teeth. It doesn't, though. People just like to say that. It doesn't, Selz.
I've eaten them. I know it does.
You're lying. You've never eaten a Butterfinger, okay? Because it doesn't stick to your teeth, okay? No, don't eat one right now, okay? Don't eat. I shouldn't have. Ryan, I think Butterfinger is a very tasty candy. I think also what I do with candy is sometimes, I also like crush it in other things like ice cream. I think Butterfinger is great in ice cream. It's a great additive to things. And people, for some reason, just never give Butterfinger. I'm not saying it's the best candy. It never gets the respect I feel it deserves. It's a tasty candy. That's what I'm plopping on the family table. What do you think of that, Ryan? You're the commander of candy.
I agree. I actually agree. It's really good. I like the added to the ice cream, like the Dairy Queen does in the Blizzard, and I don't know who else probably does that now too. But yeah, I'm right there with you. Bart Simpson was like their first endorser way back in the day.
Right.
Nobody let your finger my Butterfinger. So yeah. Definitely down with that. I actually was going to keep it kind of candy. It wasn't because of the bracket, but this because Halloween is Monday. So I get 0 trick-or-treaters where I live. I used to live in a place where we'd get like 150, 200. Now there's literally 0. So I want to ask both of you guys, 1, do you dress up? 2, do you get trick-or-treaters?
I do dress up. I have a penguin costume that I actually wore last night because we did Boo at the zoo, at our local zoo. We trick-or-treated at our local zoo. So I dressed up as a penguin.
Are there pictures of this? I would love to see that.
I'm sure they will be on Facebook. My friends all took pictures of.
Nice.
Yes. We used, well, let me put it this way. We didn't at our apartment because it was in a secured, like it was a secured building, right? So like you couldn't trick or treat inside the building unless you could get in, which you needed to know somebody to do that. In our current neighborhood last year, which was our first year in the house, it was a pretty lackluster showing for Halloween. Like, we went trick-or-treating in the neighborhood, and some people didn't even realize it was Halloween, apparently.
Oh, wow.
It's not obvious or anything.
Right, exactly. So this year we're actually going to go to my friends who just moved into Omaha, and their neighborhood is loaded with kids, so we're going to go trick-or-treating over there.
Yeah. Ryan, we keep a counter, actually, of every trick-or-treater. My wife loves to keep the counter out there.
I used to do that when we used to get them the same thing.
We try to, like, predict what the number's going to be and who's going to be closest. So we're going to be getting, I'd say, well over 100 for us when it comes to trick-or-treaters. For me, I mean, I've got to be on camera on Monday as well. So I thought about this. And yes, you know what? I am going to dress up. And you know what I think I'm going to be? I'm going to bring back a costume that I haven't worn in about 4 or 5 years. I'm going to be a member of the Toon Squad from Space Jam. I have the shorts, I have the jersey, and I've got the blue headband that's going to make me look like Elmer Fudd from the first Space Jam. And I'm going to be wearing that all show long as a distraction. And I feel really bad for John and Pemba, who's going to have to sit there looking at me for 2 hours. So what do you think of that, guys? You think that'll draw ratings if I do that?
Absolutely. I think everyone needs to have a little more fun in their life.
My dad sets up a maze in their front yard like all through the front yard. You have to go through the maze to get to the front porch, which is where the bowl of candy is. And then he dresses up like a scarecrow and sits in a chair on the front porch, but like is super still. And then when a kid goes to reach in, he goes, "Just take one." And then they scream like all over. And it's apparently well known because a neighbor of ours moved in onto the block from somewhere else in our town and was like, "You're the guy that scares the kids with the scarecrow." Like he had lived like across town and apparently knew about it. So, yeah, my parents love Halloween. They get a bunch of trick-or-treaters, but
why just one piece of candy? Why take one? Why
you gotta leave it for everybody else?
You can't take two. Take one.
Yeah, that's what you do. What are you, just emptying people's bowls?
You could do two.
Wait. Did you walk around and just empty people's bowls into your trick-or-treat bag?
No, I never did that. But
because the look on your face really matched the
tone. I'm like that.
Like okay. One was just an abomination.
Well, one. Take one. I mean, everybody's got extra candy at the end of the day. You buy the big thing, you'll have extra candy. You can do two. Okay. Am I really in the wrong on this? Take one. You guys can disagree with me, but
I mean, I've just taken one. Like,
okay, then I'm wrong. I'm the idiot. Then I'm the greedy ass anyway. So, Selz, what are you bringing to the table?
What I'm bringing to the table is that we have a new lineup generator that launched on the site. It's been overhauled. There's still more of it to come. Most of the features, you'll notice, are still intact from the last one, but there is a brand new feature on there called Player Cores, where you can basically build a player stack regardless of the game or the teams that they're playing for, which is going to be quite handy because I know everybody likes to build around certain core groups of guys and then like filling around it. So, to give you an example, let's say you wanted, I don't know, what's a core you're going with tonight for NBA there, Fensty?
It's still being decided, but something in the neighborhood of I'm thinking of actually Ja Morant and Desmond Bane. So a little Memphis mini stack.
There you go. So let's say that you're going with them, but then you want to add a third guy who's not playing in that game. You can add them in, and then you're guaranteed to get those three guys in lineups together. So that's a pretty sweet new feature. There's a bunch of more features to come, like being able to tweak your own projections in a whole bunch of different ways, and all sorts of, we're trying to get some support for some other game types too. So those are still coming, but it's live for NFL. It is coming for NBA and NHL on November 1st. So that's a pretty big new tool for all you FA folks out there. And
how are you going to have time to trick or treat the day before if you've got a tool coming out the day after Halloween?
Oh no, it's out now.
You said it's coming for NBA though, November.
Yes,
1st.
For NBA and NHL, I will stay up and I will test it.
No way, no chance. You're gonna be on a sugar rush from all the candy that you take from your kids' bags. Come on, dude.
No, I don't actually take the candy because it hurts my teeth too much. So. Trying to eat right a little bit. Got to cut down the sugar.
I hear you. It's Halloween, though. It's Halloween, and it's okay. Yeah. By the way, how does that work? Because I think my daughter's going to be going trick or treating for the first time. What's this whole dad tax thing, Ryan? Or Selz? You're both fathers.
So basically, you decide the candy your kid can have, which at her age would probably be like chocolate bars, I would guess. And then anything like, well, maybe lollipops. I don't know. Anything like, I don't know, Laffy Taffies or Starburst or whatever become yours. I also just take all the Reese's because
that's nice of you. You take the best piece of don't let your kids enjoy.
Discovered they don't like Reese's, and now I know they're not my kids.
Okay, well that'll change in the next couple of years, and then you won't be able to get any of the peanut butter cups. Give Selz a follow on Twitter at the Selzman. Give Ryan Hallam a follow at Fighting Chance. Give me a follow on Twitter at Fensty Sports. Don't forget, a family that sticks together wins together, especially with the new lineup generator, multi-sport lineup generator out now, coming out for more sports beginning of November. That's very exciting. Keep it locked in at fantasyalarm.com. We'll be back next week. Good luck. Crush week 8.